possible.
What's up, horror fans, and especially Wes Craven fans? We are in the middle of Wes Craven month here on the Lassercast, where we talk about new horror movies and TV shows like Yellow Jackets and The Blackening and things like that. But we also talk about the classics. I don't know, is Red Eye from 2005 a classic, Dr. Zayas God?
I think it might be an underrated gem or an
Okay.
underseen, underappreciated gem, is what I'll say. I don't think I would go so far as to throw the word classic out there. I think with Wes Craven, the word classic is held for the Nightmare on Elm Street movie franchise and Scream and the Scream franchise. And then for me, my personal favorite, People Under the Stairs, for me is probably one of his classics. We've covered that. We covered Shocker, which is absolutely not a classic. This is, I genuinely think, though, after rewatching it, that this is top tier Craven, because this is more than anything else a pure suspense thriller.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's what it's listed as on like Amazon. You know, it's a psychological thriller.
I hate getting into the minutia of the genre debate with, especially on social media, with people who will try to tell me that Jaws is not a horror movie, or there we go, I shed some light on the situation.
Hey, there he is.
Or or people who want to argue about Silence of the Lambs. And this movie, the way I pretty much figured out, what's the director's intention? Is the intent to scare you? In that case, it's mostly a horror film. Is the goal to put you in suspense? Then you could throw the word thriller out there. And this movie, from about the 20-minute mark on, is incredibly suspenseful. Pretty much. And this is another case. This is a rare case of, like, this is one of the fastest movies I've ever seen. This movie is effectively 76 minutes long. Yeah. It says it's an hour and 25 minutes. I think it says it's like 85 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's like 9 minutes of credits at the end. This movie ended at like 1 hour, 16 minutes. Like, that's barely a full moon feature. So that is like what Craven is able to pack into this movie.
Yeah. The
performances, the tension, all in barely $1.20 is absolutely fantastic. And really, if you look at the last decade to maybe even 15 years of his life, he died, I believe, in 2015.
Sounds
and like, he made this movie in 2005, and sprinkled all around this are the Scream sequels, Scream 3, and then Scream 4 would come in 2011. He did this really bad movie called My Soul to Take, somewhere around there. This is like probably his last great non-franchise film.
Huh. You know, it's interesting. I was literally just talking to Joshua McMillan, my friend who's been on this channel a couple of times, and I was telling him we're doing Craven month, and he's never seen this movie. He's never seen Red Eye. And he did bring up, did Craven do a movie called Cursed? Is that vampire movie? Is that, I mean, not
werewolf.
He did though?
He did. And I think, I'm pretty sure that was kind of a cursed, pun intended, production. Where like there was really wonky CG, and a lot of it had to be like reshot. And it's, if you've ever seen the really hilarious GIF of a werewolf giving somebody the finger.
Oh, okay.
That's from Cursed.
Oh, no. Is it Christina Ricci or no?
Christina Ricci is in that. I don't. Who plays Ant-Man's ex-wife?
Oh, I know who that is. Fuck. I can look her up real quick.
She's also in 13 going on 30.
Yeah, she's in a ton of things. Yeah.
she's like the antagonist in that to Christina Ricci's character in that movie. I'm 99% sure. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Sounds like an interesting movie. Yeah. Anything with a werewolf giving someone the finger. That's interesting right there. Okay. So Judy Greer.
There you go. I have a question for you because
Go ahead.
rewatching this movie in 2023, the first 20 minutes of this movie, it felt as if this movie had kind of rubbed off on some of the films that we watched last year that we genuinely loved.
Okay. Oh, okay. Got me intrigued now. Movies that we genuinely loved. Okay. Refresh my memory.
So I'll throw out the titles of the movie and you tell me what these movies have in common.
Got it.
Fresh and Barbarian.
Oh, meet cutes. Meet cute time.
What do you mean meet?
Oh, so you know
what do you mean by that?
It's like when you like randomly run into somebody and have like a connection with them. Yeah. Okay,
good. I've never heard that term before. I kind of put it together in my head, but I also wasn't sure if you said meat cubes, and I was like, "Are you talking about like a beef stew dish?" I'm confused. You live in Texas. That could be some weird Texas chainsaw style beef dish that I've never heard of.
I think Fresh has
Sherry, come in. We're having meat cubes.
I think Fresh has some meat cubes in it.
Well, that unfortunately for the lead act. But this movie, and I encourage you and anybody who might be watching this, go watch the trailer, the 1 minute and 40-second trailer for this movie back in 2005. It's very subtle, and it plays it, even with the music choice in the trailer, almost as if you're watching a romantic comedy. And there is an alternate universe where Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams make a really adorable romantic comedy about strangers on a plane.
There you go.
I just wrote the title of the movie for you.
All set.
I thought these two actors had amazing chemistry together.
Yes.
And there's part of you that if you didn't know what you were watching, you would kind of be rooting for them up until about minute 22, 23. When they're on the plane and the shit's and you start to realize, oh, that's what's going on in this movie.
Right.
And that reminded me so much of Fresh and Barbarian, two movies that had almost the exact same opening 30 minutes of it's like there's these two, a male and a female character that meet somewhat weirdly. They kind of have a meet cute where you're not like in Fresh. It was a lot more obvious. Like they actually kind of become a couple like that's about to hook up or they did hook up. Whereas in Barbarian, it's kind of like a will they, won't they? Can you trust this guy?
Right.
Oh my God. And then all of a sudden you realize 30 minutes in, you're in a horror movie and something has happened.
Yeah.
And that whole dynamic is this first 22, 23 minutes of this movie. And this movie came out 18 years ago.
Dang. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's really interesting that you bring this up, man, because it does remind me of those two other movies. The guy that wrote the script, he was kind of interesting to me. He actually wrote a whole bunch of other things. He did a lot of like reboots. He did the reboot of The Last House on the Left, which is another Wes Craven movie. He wrote Disturbia, right? It's sort of like of the same time as this movie.
It's also kind of a remake of Rear Window.
Rear Window,
it's
right.
Pretty good, though. Disturbia. Very good movie.
Agreed. And then I didn't see the Red Dawn remake, but he did that one. And then he was a writer on a lot of shows, including The Clone Wars and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And and before when you were like talking about how like the movie's very like it seems like real short and they get right to the point. Like it is almost like an episode of a TV show, right?
Yeah.
It could be
this feels like it could be a Twilight Zone episode or an Outer Limits episode. It's not really like sci-fi or it's really contained in the real world, but it almost feels like it could be an episode of like an espionage show, like
24.
Like, definitely something of that nature.
Yeah.
I love the chemistry that they have. One of the reasons that we brought up this movie to talk about is because very soon Cillian Murphy is he's gonna light the world on fire.
Oh,
uh, in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, he plays the titular role.
yes.
And 2005, he's coming off of 28 days later. He's also he's not like really well known at this point. I read on IMDb that he actually flew to the United States like 2 days before his wedding to meet Wes Craven.
Oh, shit.
Because he really wanted this role.
Yeah.
And he has that look. Like he's like a handsome guy,
right?
But he also can like kind of effortlessly be creepy.
Yes.
And he kind of plays a similar character in Batman Begins.
Right, which I think would be around at the same time too, right?
Yeah, 2005. Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because I know that The Dark Knight is 2008. It's like the same year as Iron Man. So it's like, yeah.
That was one of Athena and my first date movies. Was the Dark Knight in 2008. So I'll never forget that came out in 2008.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, though, honestly, because this movie reminds me of a very specific time in my life, and like seeing Cillian Murphy's career begin, like with 28 days later, and then this, and then he's the Scarecrow. Like I remember just going to the movies all the time when this movie came out, and I would just go see anything. And I don't even think I knew that this was a Wes Craven movie when I went to go see it.
I think that might have been the only reason I went to see it, because I might have seen the trailer for this and been like, this looks like a disposable movie, like action thriller on an airplane. And, Wes Craven directed it. Whatever, let's go,
Yeah.
There were a bunch of movies that came out around this time that I had like no expectations for and completely blew me away. There was a Chris Evans movie called Cellular.
Oh, yeah.
That was like shockingly good.
Yeah.
And then there was the other movie that I always think of, not that in like that suspense thriller type way, is Phone Booth, which I think was 2004.
Sure.
And that was another movie where it didn't really have any, like, you kind of walk in going, how the hell are they going to make this an exciting movie? It's in a phone booth the whole movie. And that was written by Larry Cohen, and he's like one of the kings of like maximizing budgets and like exploitation cinema from like the late 70s and 80s. So I always kind of pair these movies together because like it was like a stretch in the early 2000s of movies that like I didn't really have a lot of high hopes for. And they like this movie was made for $26 million and it grossed almost 100 million worldwide. It like,
holy shit.
And considering that it was only an hour and 20 minutes and the villain, spoiler alert, the villain is not dead at the end. He's like left to be captured. Yeah. It does kind of feel like there's like a setup in place where this could have become a franchise. One of the things I love about this movie is how little you know about Cillian Murphy. You just know that he's like the setup man for like, he's not a hitman, but he is the guy that sets up the hits, but he's also a middleman. And at the end of the movie, he's got like this pen lodge and he's, and it just feels like it's set up for him to be this like great overarching like villain where he comes back with his raspy voice. And
yeah.
Oh man.
Well, let me ask you this. In the movie, I don't think anyone dies, right?
That's it.
Oh, maybe there is the one guy that is supposed to kill her dad.
The hitman.
yeah. She like drives the car like into him or whatever, right? And so it's funny. I wanted to talk about the dad too. Always had a chance because Brian Cox. He's always like this character actor that's in so many things, but I think most people at this point know him from Succession as the father in Succession. And I just fucking love him because I love Succession. And then he's the dad in this.
Never watched an episode of that.
I don't know if you would like it or not, but it's really well written. And
I mean, he's just been around. He's Braveheart. One of those actors who like he's probably in his 70s now, and he hit it like you said, everyone's talking about Succession, and
Yeah.
it's like he hit like his biggest role at this point of his career. Meanwhile, he's the first ever Hannibal
Had a
Lecter,
Lecter, right? Yes, exactly. Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's been in like everything. Like
Right.
it, so like there's too many movies for me to even think of. But yeah, like, and he just plays like generic dad.
Yeah. It's just hanging out, and he's kind of trash talking Texas and stuff because Rachel McAdams' parents are divorced, and her mom lives in Texas, and then he has a few things to say about Texas, on the phone, and like Dr. Phil also plays like a big role in the movie. Like there's like a Dr. Phil book that
The
she's reading.
self-help book, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this was kind of like right around when Dr. Phil was starting to become big.
Well, it's also interesting. One of the things I wrote down is one of the themes of the movie is kind of like battling against toxic masculinity and chauvinism. And again, this was 2005,
Yeah.
years, like over, God, a decade and a half before the Me Too movement.
Oh yeah.
Before, like if this movie would have come out today and
Hmm.
they would have like some of the dialogue about
Mm.
like your female centric brain needs to live, like a lot of people would have heard that dialogue today and been like, oh
Right.
God, a
Right.
grown eye roll. But
Right.
this to me just strikes something that we brought up in our review of People Under the Stairs. Wes Craven had a knack for being kind of at the forefront topically
Yep.
with a lot of these social issues. We saw this in People Under the Stairs. We made, we kind of, beat on him a little bit when we talked about Serpent and the Rainbow a while ago about how he might have like exploited the culture of Haiti and voodoo and, white savior tropes there. And then
Right.
he comes back and he does, the People Under the Stairs about, gentrification and, socio-political context and race. And now he has a female protagonist in this movie who's strong, assertive, like, and effectively like foils this cool, suave, male-brained guy. And
Yeah.
it doesn't come across as like overbearing or eye roll inducing. It
No.
just it feels like Wes Craven was kind of ahead of the curve again. And
Well, yeah, and I mean, you bring up a really good point about that because it's not like I think that nowadays, if someone was tackling the same kind of story, she would have all these crazy moves, like physical moves, and she would be doing all these kind of like cat and mouse things with him, and like maybe being a step ahead of him a couple of times. But in this movie, she really is at his mercy up until when the plane lands, and that's when she makes her move. And I remember when I first saw this movie in 2005, I would have been about 23. And I just kind of thought, I thought it was like sort of generic. I didn't appreciate it as much. But then when I watched it this time around, when she stabs him in the neck, it's such a vindicating moment because she's at his mercy pretty much the majority of the film. And then right in that moment, she's able to tie it into that story of when she was a victim too in the past and just like really get him. And he's not expecting it. I don't even know if the audience is expecting it. They do
there's
some great.
there's a lot of things like that where the movie is moving from like the opening scene. She's like in a frantic rush to get to the airport. You feel the tension of just that.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
the movie kind of slows down on the airplane and you get to feel everything in this like agonizingly slow, like, and then there's that one scene where he's like calmly telling her, it goes from like he's suave and charming to now he reveals who he is, the plan.
Right.
And she's like struggling to realize what's going on. And then he like out of nowhere headbutts her unconscious.
Yeah,
and you're just like,
yeah.
what the fuck? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, he like bum rushes her into the airplane bathroom
Yeah.
to the point where like the stewardesses almost blow it off as like Mile High Club. Oh, it's going to be this kind of plane ride. And it's like, so that's what I love. Like Cillian Murphy is, he's so he could be charming, suave, and handsome, and then he could be so freaking like literal fast, turn on a dime, scary, violent. And it did kind of remind me of his scenes with Maggie. Was it no Katie Holmes in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Batman
I'm thinking
Begins.
Dark Knight. Yeah, of in Katie Holmes in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
But the strength of this movie, I think, and I think we're kind of talking around it, is Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Because this is, I think what you were saying with like how the dialogue could have been like really heavy handed, or like she could have been like a super ninja.
Right.
That was like everything that was bad about Black Christmas 2019.
Oh.
Where it was like every line of dialogue was like beating you over the head with the sledgehammer of plot about how men are the worst. And I get it. I get it. We suck.
Yeah.
But you can tell that story subtly. You know, we didn't need a lesser movie would have given us a flashback to her getting attacked in this parking lot and getting that scar. The movie lets us, you know, we see the scar, we see her reading the self-help book, we hear these little lines of dialogue about how she's sick of her dad always asking her if she's okay. It's like we're clued in with context clues to what happened without them beating us over the fucking head with it.
Yep.
And then, like you said, she's super smart. She like the way she like gets the pen, and like it's all setting up, and you're like, where is she gonna stab him with that? And then like that scene is just so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I wrote down for Rachel McAdams. I wrote, she's so effortlessly beautiful but like she's gorgeous, but she also looks like a regular human being.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Which is such, and I don't know if that's a quantifiable talent. That goes for like there is like for men and women, for all actors. Like there are men who look too good to be real. Like
Chris Hemsworth.
We're fucking reading each other. I was just thinking, like, he's the first person to come to mind. Where, like, if he was playing a romantic lead in a movie, I already don't believe it because, my God, please,
Thor.
Like, yeah, you're fucking Thor. It's enough. But like, Rachel McAdams is beautiful, but she also looks like she could be a woman I work with. She could be a woman who lives in my building. She looks like she doesn't look overly made up or, you know, like a supermodel. Like she just looks real, and she is a real person from the minute you meet her. Like that work, like obsessed with work, but great at her job, you know. And this movie like rides on like her strength as a character and as an actress throughout. It's basically a two-person movie.
Oh yeah. It could be a play. I mean, there are these like the dad, Brian Cox is kind of the other main standout character. Then there's the like the guy that's like in charge of Homeland Security or whatever that they're targeting.
And the other girl, Cynthia, who works at the hotel.
Oh yeah, I love that actress, by the way. That's I wrote her name down, but
she's been in a million things also.
Jayma Mays.
Yeah.
I most notably I remember her from like season 1 of Heroes. Did you ever watch that?
Yes.
Yeah.
At least for like 3-4 a lot of seasons.
Okay,
I don't know if I finished it, but
and then I need to point out this one woman. I don't even know. Have you ever seen the movie Home for the Holidays?
Is that with Holly Hunter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So me and Sherry, we have like a tradition where we watch it every Thanksgiving because it takes place on Thanksgiving. There's like family drama and stuff. She eats that shit up. It's a good movie. And what do you call the woman that's on the plane that gets the Dr. Phil book is in that movie, and she's a woman on the plane who's really fucking annoying. So in my mind, in my head canon, Red Eye and Home for the Holidays are in the same universe, and that's the same woman. You know.
I can see that. This movie also, there was one thing that I thought the movie could have done that, again, that I really liked that they did this. They didn't make the hitman a character. He's just like,
Yeah.
you see him and he's promptly taken out by a car.
Right.
I thought it would have been like really cool if Wes Craven could have put in a phone call and maybe gotten like Robert Englund to be the hitman. Or like, because like you're kind of built up, like he's the way that Cillian Murphy describes him, Jack Ripner. I mean, like, even their communication at the beginning, their like flirtation where he's like, call me Jackson because my parents named me Jackson Ripner. And they like laugh about that. And then, you know, the whole thing with the bay breeze and the sea breeze. And it's just, I love, you know, you just said it. And I feel this a lot. If I'm watching a movie and I feel like this could be a 90-minute play off Broadway, it makes me love the movie so much. And I thought that watching Brooklyn 45, which I saw at the premiere of at IFC Center. I have a review up on the channel, Ted Gagan's new movie on Shudder.
Right.
That movie feels, it's a one location movie. This movie is effectively, it's the airport, the airplane, her house at the end, and the hotel. It's 4 locations. You can do that. And there, like we said, there's 2 main characters and really 2 to 3 side characters.
Yeah.
It's such a small movie.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so well paced. I think I've made my point that I love this movie. Like, I think I messaged you. I was 30 minutes into the movie and I messaged you and I was like, oh my God, I fucking love this movie. And you're like, well,
I sent you the Thor meme. Speaking of Chris Hemsworth, I sent you that meme where it's like,
But the funny thing is, like, you're like, yeah, well, I think it's like a 7.5 to an 8. I'm like, oh, that's,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm like at 9 to 9.5. We're only off by like a one number or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Like, here's the thing, right? It's fun. There isn't really anything in it that I'm like, oh, I don't like this part, or I don't like that they did this. Everything is good, you know, and what it sets out to do, it accomplishes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that sometimes since we review things and we try to focus on stuff and we talk so much about everything, I think we want everything to be profound. But this is just like a good movie to go see in a theater.
Perfect way to describe it. Yeah. There is nothing profound about this movie. It's not going to change your life. In many ways, if you know going in that it's a thriller, or if it's a Wes Craven horror thriller type movie, then it kind of is exactly what you think it's going to be. I mean, the last sequence of this movie, if you put a ghost face mask on Cillian Murphy, Rachel McAdams might as well just be Sidney Prescott, because it's effectively a Scream house chase scene. That they do at the beginning and the end of the original Scream, and they do in almost every Scream movie. I mean, she's hiding behind doors. She's attacking, you know, he even trips, he acts like Ghostface. So like that had to be Wes Craven just being like, here's the scene in Scream where Sidney's running through Stu Macher's house. I want you to do that in this scene. There's even a dad laying unconscious on the floor. So it's like Wes Craven shot what he knew and what he'd done before. It's like you said, it's not profound. It's not going to change the world, but this is, a modestly budgeted 2-star vehicle. And by 2-star, I mean 2 stars, not 2-star out of 4. Two like young stars on the rise. I mean, this was Rachel McAdams, I think, right after or right before The Notebook. Or definitely right after. What was the Lindsay Lohan movie that
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. So like she was in like her early prime as an actress. Cillian Murphy was about to have Batman and Inception. He was like the new Christopher Nolan supporting star leading up to now he's going to be an Oppenheimer, and now he's
The
finally
main
evolved
star.
into the new main, the new
Right.
Nolan star.
Right.
And it's an hour and 17 minutes before the credits. I mean, so even if you don't like this movie, there are like season finales of TV shows now that go longer than this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah. Sounds like a pretty good endorsement to me, man. So, you know, at the end of our Craven month, we should definitely rank all the movies that we've watched. And I'd like to see where you would rank this one. I know People Under the Stairs is going to be high on your list, but, you know, we'll rank all of them. Which one do you think we should cover next? I think we have at least 1 week worth of Craven month left.
I mean, I think we have to go back a little bit at this point. I think we've hit on his last movie of the 80s, his first movie of the 90s, and now one of his non-Scream movies from the aughts.
Yeah.
I think we need to go back and do one of his grittier first, movies, maybe either the original Hills Have Eyes or maybe one of his lesser known early 80s films like Deadly Blessing or Deadly Friend. Deadly Friend, I don't think we have to cover. I don't think he was particularly very happy with that movie. I think that was kind of, but Deadly Blessing is interesting. It has a young Sharon Stone, very weird little movie. The Hills Have Eyes is real nasty and gritty. And I know you love the remake of that, so I thought that could be something. So we could figure it out during the week, but we'll definitely get in at least one more.
We'll figure it out during the week. And then you guys watching at home, we love when you comment on our stuff. I know Danny writes back to a lot of y'all's comments. And he's always posting content on the channel left and right. Why don't you let us know if we put it up right now for y'all? Would you rather us do The Hills Have Eyes, the original, or would you rather us do Deadly Blessing, you said, right?
Yeah.
So either one of those, let us know in the comments which one you'd rather us cover.
Or if you want us to watch Cursed and deal with a werewolf giving everybody the finger.
Yes. I just got to check it out now, man. But yeah, well, we know we love Christina Ricci on this channel because of Yellow Jackets. But that's it for this week. Danny and I will be back next week with probably our last Wes Craven movie. And then we're going to be covering some shows. I know that Danny and I talked about maybe doing that show From coming out too. So let us know if you guys are interested in that.
Also, Chris gave us a good idea with David Gordon Green's Exorcist coming out later this year. Maybe we would go back and watch the Exorcist series on Fox, maybe cover some of the Exorcist films. We've covered the original. We did like an Unholy Trinity month in December a few years ago. So that review is up on the channel. I'd love to talk about Exorcist 3. I would not like to talk about Exorcist 2. But yeah, I mean, I would love to talk about Exorcist 3. And I did watch season 1 of that show, and it was really good. I never finished it, but I heard great things from Chris and others. Speaking of Chris and Brian, we did a flash review on Comic Books Transformed. If anybody is interested in your other channel and comic book movies, you could check that out.
Yeah, please do. That flash discussion was a lot of fun. And like Danny said, it's on Comic Books Transformed. We got new videos coming out every week, just like we do on the Lasser Cast. So let us know, guys. If you're out there watching our stuff, we'd love to hear from you. And Danny and I will be back next